Do you remember the day in history when a few people walked into the Capitol building and demanded their voices be heard? You know, that day when Ashlee Babit was shot and killed by a trigger-happy cop. Yeah, January 6, 2020. It's now February 24th, 2023, and the footage for that day has just now been released. And we will look at the highlights in this episode of the Demetrius Urijo Show. We have a lot more planned in this episode, so stay tuned. So taking it from the top, if you do want to see all of the events that unfolded on January 6, 2020, then you can just click the link down below and you will see the full from morning to night, exactly when Trump had his speech and the whole entire timeline from this, because I actually made a video for this on January 8th, 2020. So I was pretty much right there. But we are going to be digging into exactly who gave the footage to who. So if you all know who this little guy is, it's Kevin McCarthy. So Kevin McCarthy actually breaks the silence on giving January 6 tapes to Tucker Carlson. And this is the right thing that he should be doing. He should be giving the tapes to a journalist so a third party can go through and say this is exactly what should be released, just like the Matt Taibbi situation with Elon Musk. These third-party people should go through this information, through this footage, and say, this is exactly what we're going to make the news story out of, and then that's what they should get. They should get unedited footage of that day, or news stories, or evidence, or documents, whatever, what have you. Depending on the case, you know, they should get the unfiltered story so they can make the story out of it. That's exactly how this journalism works. Wow. 2 days after news broke that Fox News host Tucker Carlson received access to tens of thousands of hours of January 6 United States Capitol surveillance footage, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy opened up about why he made this disclosure. Quote, I promise, McCarthy told the New York Times on Wednesday, I was asked in the press about these tapes, and I said that they do belong to the American public. I think sunshine lets everybody make their own judgment. Exactly. The speaker said last month he was looking into the release of the tapes because the politicization he believed had been fostered by former Speaker Nancy Pelosi in the January 6 committee, which focused heavily on former President Donald Trump and its investigation and final report. But Kevin McCarthy did not divulge how he was planning to do so. Axios first reported on Monday that McCarthy shared with Carlson 41,000 hours of security footage from January 6, 2021, the day a crowd of people entered the United States Capitol. So I guess it didn't happen in 2020. I guess January 6 was 2021. January 6, 2021. The day in history where a crowd of people entered the United States Capitol, disrupting lawmakers who were meeting to certify President Joe Biden's 2020 victory. A Fox News spokesperson told the Daily Wire that the report from Axios was accurate. Hours later, Carlson said on his show, Tucker Carlson Tonight, that his team was granted what they believe to be an unfettered access to the tapes, and he plans to start sharing what they have found next week. Some of our smartest producers have been looking around at this stuff, trying to figure out what it all means and how it contracts. Or not. The story, well, we have been told for 2 years, Carlson said. We think already that there is some ways that it does contradict that story. So let's watch that clip now.
So for really more than 2 years now, we've been complaining about, and we think it's justified, the fact that the U.S. Congress has held thousands, tens of thousands of hours of closed-circuit camera footage from the public. They have not released any of it from January 6th. And January 6th, of course, is a transformative event in this country. It's been used to change the country. So there are about 44,000 hours. And we have, you may have read this today, been granted access to that. And we believe that access is unfettered. We believe we have secured the right to see whatever we want to see. So we've been there about a week. Our producers, some of our smartest producers, have been there looking at this stuff and trying to figure out what it means and how it contradicts or not the story that we've been told for more than 2 years. We think already that in some ways it does contradict that story. And so we're going to spend the rest of this week taking a look at it, assessing it as honestly as we can, and we're going to bring you what we find next week.
No, and I completely agree with what he's doing, because he needs to look through this footage. He needs to make sure He needs to make sure what's going on. He needs to make sure that he has the right story out there. So he's being an honest journalist. He can't sit here and say, well, this is the story that we have. This is the story what we want to push. No, he needs to sit here and actually make sure that he's reporting the facts of exactly what happened that day. That's the most important thing Tucker Carlson and the Tucker Carlson Tonight show, or Fox News in general, can actually do for the public. Be honest with the public, because for the last 3 years or 2 years or so, we've just been getting lies after lie after lie after lie, and we need someone to finally tell us the truth based off of the footage of what you're seeing. That's what we need. Now, like I explained before, if you do want to see my take on this, which I did release exactly after the event, I think January 10 I released it, 2021, you can see it in the link down below. So, continuing with the article, some Republicans cheered the move, including Rep. Lauren Boebert, who had opposed McCarthy's bid for Speaker earlier this year. Thank you, McCarthy, for following through with this, she tweeted Monday. The public deserves to see everything that was hidden. But silence from McCarthy's camp up until now gave Democrats room to issue myriad alarming statements about the nature of the disclosure and the risk to Capitol security without any pushback from the source. In a letter to the House Democrats on Tuesday, Minority Leader Kaleem Jeffries said his team is working to confirm the precise nature of the video transfer, which he called a reported breach. That's not a reported breach. That's Tucker Carlson and Fox News' First Amendment right, the freedom of the press and the freedom of speech. They do have the right to look at whatever they see fit. If you want to make a huge public outcry about January 6, 2021, then you're the ones that need to sit here and actually have the facts about that case. If not, then shut your mouth. And he stated that there was no indication that McCarthy and Carlson followed the same protocols adopted by the January 6 committee in handling the footage. So what? He has the footage. It's his responsibility to bear anything with that footage. But giving it to a media company is exactly what he should be doing. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer followed with the letter to his colleagues on Wednesday that warned McCarthy is making available a treasure trove of closely held information about how the Capitol complex is protected, and its public release would compromise its safety of the legislative branch and allow those who want to commit another attack to learn how Congress is safeguarded. Okay, so I can kind of see the situation that they're doing, but they're acting like they can't just create another safeguard, and they have just one safeguard in place. And two, they're acting like Fox News is going to replace or expose this whole entire footage. No, of course they're not going to say where the senators are hiding. They're going to have the news story and say, okay, this is exactly what unfolded. McCarthy boasted of giving Carlson the tapes in a fundraising email reported Wednesday by a Bloomberg government journalist. I promised I would give you the truth regarding January 6th, and now I'm delivering, he said. That appeal to donors led to a rebuke from at least one of McCarthy's Democrat colleagues. Kevin McCarthy undermined security on Capitol Hill in ways officials say could endanger the safety of Capitol police officers to feed January 6th footage to a propagandist who downplayed the attack of the Capitol, tweeted Rep. Don Beyer. But, of course, they're not going to realize all of the times that Democrats burnt down the city in the same exact summer, or the summer before this. It's just incredible, the bias that the media has. Moving on to the next article from the Daily Wire, we actually have Pete Buttigieg takes time off Pete Buttigieg takes personal time in midst of East Palestine disaster, asks if he can snap photo of reporter who dares to question him. This is actually a very weird situation. So let's watch the footage here.
Secretary, what do you have to say? Hi, how are you? Good. Jenny here with the Daily Caller News Foundation. What do you have to say to the folks in Ohio, East Palestine, who are suffering right now?
Well, I'd refer you to about a dozen interviews I've given today, and if you'd like to arrange a conversation, be sure to reach out to our press office, but I'd like to have that conversation with you. Just walk
you
down
don't
the
have a
street
message
here.
for them?
I do, and I shared it with the press many times today. I'd refer you to those comments.
Would you mind sharing it with us?
No, I'm going to refer you to the comments that I made to the press because right now I'm taking some personal time and I'm walking down the street.
Are you going down there?
What's that?
Are you going down there at all?
Yeah, I am.
When are you going?
I'll share that when I'm ready.
Okay,
I'll talk
thank
down the
you.
street. Take it in. Can I get a photo of you?
Yeah.
Like, who does that? I just don't know why. So he's asking a picture of the journalist. Why do you need that picture? This is weird. I just don't know. Like, it does not give me good feelings about that, to say the least. So, continuing with the article, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg reportedly snapped a photo of a journalist from the Daily Caller News Foundation after refusing to answer her questions about an ongoing disaster in East Palestine, Ohio, because he was taking some personal time. What personal time are you taking? It's your responsibility because you're the Department of Transportation Secretary. Do you not understand what your job is? The foundation's Jenny Tair caught up with Pete Buttigieg in Washington, D.C. and asked him a series of questions about the train derailment and subsequent chemical fires. Primarily, what he might have to say to local residents who have concerns about their safety and quality of the air and water in their homes. I asked Secretary Pete Buttigieg about the crisis in East Palestine, and I guess he didn't like that, so he took a picture of me. I'm just doing my job, sir, Tair tweeted, sharing photo of the brief encounter. Hi, how are you? Okay, this is exactly a translation of exactly what happened. Tair persisted asking the transportation secretary whether he planned to make a visit to East Palestine. He said that he did intend on going, but then refused to give specifics. When she asked when he might be making the trip, he says, and I quote, "I'll share that when I'm ready," he said, and then stopped and turned to face her and said, "Can I get a photo of you?" he asked. Joe Kutcher, Fox News commentator and media and politics columnist for The Hill, suggested that the mainstream press's failure to address the situation was part of the problem. Quote, "This is how elites who are made uncomfortable act out. Amazing how few members of the press are commenting on this," he said. It's just sad, yeah, because a lot of people are not even covering this at all. The mainstream media did not even take 2 seconds to talk about the situation. Now, without further ado, let's dig into a dozen takes. Yeah, so talking about the media is something that we cannot trust. And it is very surprising when they actually come out with a story that, is based. And this article from CNN is actually based. Angry Ohio residents confront train CEO during CNN town hall on toxic wreck. So, this is actually funny that CNN is covering this. Residents of a small Ohio town whose lives have been upended since a train hauling toxic chemicals derailed earlier this month pressed top officials on the long-term health conditions and exposed their mounting distrust Wednesday night during a CNN town hall. Following the February 3 crash, angry and frustrated residents of East Palestine grilled Governor Mike DeWine and Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw on key concerns including air and water safety, cleanup efforts, and whether the chemicals released following the crash could have long-term health side effects on their families and children, some of whom have said that they are feeling sick weeks after the massive derailment. Jim Stewart, a lifelong 65-year-old East Palestine resident, said that he's angry and disgusted with what happened in his hometown. "I don't feel safe in this town right now. You took it away from me," Stewart told Shaw during the town hall. Stewart, who said he lives near the train where the train crashed, added his experiences headaches after he inhales air near his home weeks after the derailment. Quote, "Did you shorten my life now? I want to retire and enjoy it. How am I going to enjoy it? You burned me," Stewart said, addressing Shaw. "You made me an angry man," which I kind of agree with. I would do the same exact thing. In response, Shaw apologized and vowed to make it right through proper cleanup and reimbursing residents. But residents left the town feeling frustrated after many of their questions went unanswered, despite their repeated attempts to clarify on safety measures. Here are the takeaways from the town hall. Health concerns are rampant. Experts have reported their local air and water are safe. However, some residents have said that they're experiencing headaches, drowsiness, diarrhea, and bloody noses following the train crash. Health issues they say they do not have prior to the crash. Courtney Newman, a mother and teacher in East Palestine, said that she and her son have been taking some health issues after returning to her home. Quote, "I took him to a pediatrician on Friday. I was told they have no guidance from the CDC, the health department. There was nothing they could do, she said. Ohio Department of Health Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff noted handling potential toxic exposures may not be in the wheelhouse of many physicians. Vandolph advised if someone feels like they are not able to get the evaluation they need, the state is making additional resources available. Patients can ask their doctor to call the county health department to get connected to toxicologists who can provide expert advice, Vanderhoff said. The health department also set up a clinic to help residents who may not have a doctor or just need additional support, he said. Officials promised to stay in East Palestine and continue testing. No, not continue testing. Continue cleaning and continue to clean up the place that you left in shambles. Continue cleaning, not just testing. You can test the top of the water all you want, but continue mixing the water and releasing your little testing device all the way to the bottom of the water. Because when we see fish being upside down in the stream of water, then that's a huge problem that you have on your hands. Neen Stewart, an East Palestine resident, told DWine she was relying on bottled water because she's unsure whether her home is safe. I'm not trusting what they're saying, Stewart said Wednesday evening. So I don't know who is telling the truth. DeWine acknowledged she's still significant work to be done on assuring all the town's water resources are safe. Those with private wells should not use that water until it's tested, he said. Some creeks and streams are currently deemed unsafe, and officials are monitoring them through testing. We are not telling you that everything is perfect, DeWine said. Officials estimate thousands of fish were killed in the contamination washing down streams and rivers. On Wednesday, DeWine said that the fish were killed in the first 24-hour period of the chemicals release, and there's no evidence showing fish were killed after the initial release. But does it matter? Fish were killed regardless. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, municipal water samples results in the city have shown no water quality concerns. But think again. If you test down under and mix the water a little bit or throw a rock in the water, it starts bubbling. So how do you explain that if it is not toxic? DeWine also said that he will tell the residents of East Palestine the best information regarding the train derailment to try evaluating their skepticism. Sometimes we don't know all of the information, he said. Sometimes we get the facts that are wrong, but there's no way in the world I'm going to convey to you or any other citizen a fact that I think is wrong. The APA is invoking special authority to hold Norfolk Southern accountable. The United States Environmental Protection Agency has ordered Norfolk Southern to cover the full cost of cleaning up the aftermath of the train crash. EPA has special authority for situations just like this, where we can compel companies who conflict trauma and cause environmental and health damage to communities like Norfolk Southern has done to completely clean up the mess that they've caused and pay for it, EPA Administrator Michael Regan said. Okay, so it does not matter who's paying for it. You can sort that out after. Clean up the place first. Keep a tab of every single thing that you spend on and then discuss who's going to pay for it. What? You don't discuss the bill of a restaurant before you even are done eating. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Moving on to the next article from CNN, we actually have United States strike kills 7 al-Shabaab fighters in Somalia, Pentagon says. So moving with the article, a United States strike in Somalia killed 7 al-Shabaab fighters on Tuesday, United States Africa Command said in a statement. The strike was carried out at the request of the Somali government and was a collective self-defense strike, Al-Fram said. The strike was carried out approximately 320 miles southeast of Mogadishu. Given the remote location of the operation, the command assesses that there are no civilians were injured or killed, Al-Fram said. Earlier this month, the United States carried out 2 strikes against al-Shabaab militants in Somalia, killing 17 fighters in all, Al-Fram said. Tuesday's strike is the 6th time this year that the United States forces have conducted strikes against al-Shabaab in coordination with the Somali government and increased pace of activity against a militant organization that AFRICOM considers the largest and most deadly al-Qaeda network in the world. The numerous operations against al-Shabaab are a sign of a growing cooperation between the United States and Somali governments against what the two countries view as a growing regional threat. In late January, the United States carried out the counterterrorism operation in Somalia that killed Bala al-Shamami, an ISIS leader responsible for spreading ISIS ideology in Africa. According to AFRICOM, Somalia views the military actions as part of a broader counterterrorism strategy in combination with the economic reform, political reconciliation, and religious tolerance. The United States has provided ongoing support in the Somali government since President Joe Biden last year approved a Pentagon request to redeploy United States troops to the area in an attempt to counter the al-Shabaab terrorist group. The approval to send fewer than 500 troops was a reversal of former President Trump's decision to withdraw all troops from the country in 2020. So if there is still an ongoing threat, then obviously that's a different situation. If there is no ongoing threat, then we should take the former President Trump's word for it. Take out the troops. But it's a different story if they're actually Al-Qaeda is still going. Moving on to the next article from MSNBC, we have the GOP just armed Tucker Carlson with an extraordinary weapon. What is that weapon, you say? The January 6th footage. Because what is their biggest weapon, MSNBC? It's the truth. Wow. Oh my God. Moving on to the next article from MSNBC. I don't even want to read that one. Moving on to the next article, we have Buttigieg vows to hold Norfolk Southern accountable, strengthening rail regulations during East Palestine visit. The trip coincided with the National Transportation Safety Board's release of a preliminary report Thursday about its investigation into the February 3 train derailment. Washington. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg vowed that his department will work with the administration and Congress to prevent future disasters similar to February 3 train derailment that led to a spill of toxic chemicals during a visit to East Palestine, Ohio on Thursday. Quote, the best way to deal with the ecological disaster is to stop it from happening in the first place, and that's a big part of where my department comes in, Buttigieg said at a conference, adding that the Department of Transportation has laid out steps that the federal government wants Congress and the rail industry to take. Okay, so now this is actually you, Pete Buttigieg, doing your job. Because before, you were saying it's not your responsibility, and that's a private corporation, and the private corporation can do what you want. Pete Buttigieg, shut up. That's what you were saying before. But now you're saying over here, the best way to deal with this is this and this. Listen, make up your mind. I want them to know that they're not alone. That before, during, and after the national attention, they're going to have support. They're going to have the support from us when it comes to holding Norfolk Southern accountable, he said. In reference to the residents of East Palestine, they're going to have support from the EPA where it comes to making sure that they get accurate information about the safety of their air, water, and soil. Of course, they should be, and they're entitled to the truth. The Secretary's visit came weeks after the derailment and follows the calls by Republicans for him to resign. Buttigieg took aim at those lawmakers during the trip, saying that the press conference that the people are playing political games are the same people who have sided with the rail industry and watering down government regulations. Okay, so you're going to sit here and play out of both sides. No, you did not do your job for weeks on end. You took your personal time because you wanted to walk on the sidewalk in DC. And then you're gonna sit here and say, well, those Republicans that are attacking me, well, they want no regulations. That's not true at all. Buttigieg also called out former President Donald Trump, who visited the area on Wednesday, saying that Trump could help the region by expressing support for revising the deregulation that happened on his watch. He was referring to the 2017 suspension of a requirement that trains carrying flammable liquids be outfitted with faster brakes. Okay, so is it the brakes that are the situation at hand? Is it the brakes that are responsible? Do we know that for sure? No, we don't. So you're sitting here saying that thousands of trains get derailed per year, and you're saying all that it needs is faster brakes. And why didn't you sign a check for them before? Because you wanted to take your paid time off before to spend it with your husband? It's stupid. Moving with the article, I heard him say that he had nothing to do with it, even though it was his administration, Buttigieg said. No, it's Joe Biden's administration. He left office 3 years ago. Is this not coming to your mind? He left office on January 6, 2021. This was exactly, I would say, this was 2 years and 1 month ago. So how is this under Trump's administration? No, this is under the Joe Biden administration. If you're not following along, maybe your brain is so in the past and so slow that you did not catch up to the reality of what year or what day it is. Pete Buttigieg. It is now 2023, February, what? When this video gets released? February 24, 2023. It is not January 20th. It's not February 23, 2020. It's not 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, or 2016. No, it's not. It's none of those. What it is February 23, 2023. 02, 22, 02, 23, 23. That's what it is. Moving with the article, Buttigieg met with community members, received an update from the National Transportation Safety Board's investigation on the disaster, and heard from the Transportation Department investigators who were on the ground in the hours after the derailment. So why didn't we hear from the media? NBC News. Why did you wait so long to tell us, the public, about this event? Asked by a reporter whether he regrets waiting a week and a half to tweet about the derailment, Buttigieg said that he should have responded sooner. Of course you have. Of course you should have. This is a no-brainer. I was taking pains to respect the role that I have and the role that I do not have, Buttigieg said. But that should not have stopped me from weighing in about how I felt and what was happening to the community. Okay, so you're sitting here saying, yes, you're responsible for giving us more regulations, but you're not responsible. So it's your fault, but it's not your fault, but you're just kicking the can down. Listen, it's your responsibility. You're the Department Secretary of Transportation. It's your responsibility. Moving with the article, moving on to the next article, I should say, we actually have an NPR article. Rep. Beanie Thompson warns release of January 6 footage could compromise Capitol security. American voters lean in favor of raising the debt ceiling, but are now divided on how to pay down the national debt, the latest NPR poll finds. By a 52-46 margin, registered voters say that they support raising the debt ceiling. They divide along party lines, with 8 in 10 Democrats in favor and 7 in 10 Republicans opposed. Independents are split. That represents a big jump in support from 2011, the last time Congress faced a pinched fight over raising the debt ceiling. Only a quarter of voters in the Marist poll supported raising the debt ceiling back then. The county had its credit downgraded as a result of the fight. The political brinksmanship of recent months highlights what we see as America's governance and policymaking becoming less stable, less effective, and less predictable than what we have previously believed. The credit ratings agency Standard & Poor's wrote in its report then. But in addition to the political instability over the debt ceiling, S&P also cited the country's long-term inability to control the national debt, which has continued to balloon since then. The debt is now more than $30 trillion, more than double where it was in 2011. Voters have become more likely to support raising the debt ceiling and address budget deficits. Now listen. What we need to do is pay off our debts. We need to pay off our debts. We need to make sure that we need to pay our bills month to month. So you know what that means? We need to cut Social Security and Medicare. Oops, I'm sorry. Listen, here's the truth. You older people that are on Medicare and Social Security right now did not pay for yourself. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you did not pay for yourself. What you did do is pay for your grandma, just like how I'm paying for my grandmas right now and my grandfathers right now. That's who you're paying for. That's who you did pay for, and that's who you and my generation Z, millennials, and baby boomers, if you're still working, that's who you're paying for. The generation that is on Social Security and Medicare, that's who you're paying for, not you in 50 years. That's not who you're paying for. No, you're not. In 2020 and 2033, Medicare was actually going to run out of money, Medicare and Social Security. So is it either we're going to solve this problem when it arises in 2033, or we're going to sit here and see that we can only pay 99% of our total revenue in Social Security and Medicare this year in 2023. Now, next year it's going to be 98%, 97, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92, 91, 90%. We're going to go down, 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 down. We're going to be able to pay less and less and less and less of the people that are on Social Security and Medicare if we don't fix the problem that is Social Security and Medicare. Social Security and Medicare was a failure since the very beginning that it was introduced. And the only reason why it worked for so long when it was introduced was because of the very reason of people dying so soon. People would die at 67, 68, maybe 70. So they would only be on the system from 65 onwards. But if they would die at 75 or 70, then they would only have 10 years on the system or 8 years on the system, depending. But now, people are living up to 85, 90, 93, 99, 100. People are living longer, which means Social Security and Medicare is going to have to pay for you longer, in which it has no money for. Now, continuing with the article. While 7 in 10 people, including a majority of Republicans, say that they want their representatives to compromise to find solutions, there was a sharp split on how people want to see Congress try to close that gap. Half said that they are favored mostly cutting programs and services, but almost as many, 46%, said that they preferred seeing the taxes and fees raised. Why? You want to pay more taxes instead of your grandma getting off Social Security? My grandma getting off Social Security does not affect me because I know for a fact that when I'm older, Social Security will not be a thing. So join the club. But that doesn't leave so much room for agreement or making up the revenue entitlements. Social Security and Medicare make more than half of federal debt, but as was highlighted of the State of the Union, the Congress has no interest in cutting those programs. Well, they better get on that. Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said that those cuts are off the table. Okay, so how are you going to lower the debt without cutting Social Security and Medicare? Please tell me right now, Kevin McCarthy. How are you going to cut the national debt if half of our national debt, or more than half of our national debt, is comprised of Social Security and Medicare? I'm waiting. No, because there is absolutely no solution to cut the national debt rather than using the thing that is causing more than half of the debt, its very self. So you're going to instead cut the 11% of the debt on military spending? So what are you going to say? You're not going to spend any more trillions of dollars to Ukraine? Are you saying that we're not going to build any more high-wage systems in China? No, you're not. So how exactly are we going to cut the national debt if you do not want to cut any debt? I'm listening. No, you do not have any idea what you're doing. A turning tide with younger generations. The percentage saying that to raise taxes and fees overall is up 10 points in the last decade because people got more stupid. And notably, it's younger Americans who are the most likely to say that they are in favor of raising taxes and fees, according to an NPR poll. Okay, so NPR, you're just stupid. Your viewers on your website are left-leaning. So of course they're like, yes, I would love to pay you my money, government. I would love to pay you my money. You know, the government can take all my money. If I don't need my money, oh, you take my money. Why the hell? Get your grummy little paws off of my paycheck every single week. Get your little grummy fingers off of my pay. I do not want you taking a single penny out of my pay. Why the hell would I tell you to take more, you stupid? Other policies. Funding the war in Ukraine. Investigating the president's son. Okay, so these two things are they're saying that this is a priority. Okay, yes, of course, because the president's son is a national threat. Because the president's son actually had business dealings in Ukraine. The president's son had strippers and paid strippers with Joe Biden's money. If Joe Biden is the president, then yes, we have the right to investigate his son. Funding the war in Ukraine? We got what we wanted out of the war in Ukraine. Now we need to stop funding the war. We need to say, this is the off-ramp. You get this. You get Crimea. You get access to the Black Sea. Exactly what you want, Russia, okay? And Ukraine, you get this, this, and this, okay? Now, Ukraine becomes partner with NATO. Now, if Russia wants to, Ukraine becomes a partner in NATO. If Russia wants to invade Ukraine, then NATO will be up Putin's rear end. So, of course, Putin will not want that. That's the solution to this fight, because the United States got exactly what it wanted out of this war in Ukraine. Now, moving into the next article from Breitbart, we actually have Governor Jim Justice. Moving into the next article. This is actually from Breitbart. I don't know why the text says Fox News on here if you're watching the video portion of this podcast. Moving with the article, Governor Jim Justice, all sign campus carry bill in a matter of seconds. Governor Jim Justice, Republican, says that he will sign campus carry legislation within a matter of seconds of it reaching his desk, noting an armed student may be able to stop a campus shooter in West Virginia. Of course, if you see a shooter, if I see a shooter, you're dead. You're dead. On February 21, 2023, Breitbart News noted that campus carry legislation has cleared the West Virginia legislature and is on its way to Justice's desk. Once signed, West Virginia will become the 12th campus carry state in the union. The other 11 are Kansas, Colorado, Georgia, Idaho, Kansas, Mississippi, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Wisconsin. WV News quoted Justice responding to the passage of the legislation saying, quote, "When this bill comes to me, it won't be with me for a matter of seconds, because I'll sign it. It may very well be that we've got somebody on a college campus that needs a firearm who when something bad starts to happen, may save a bunch of lives. I really, truly believe that the people who have firearms and carry permits are law-abiding, good people with rock-solid credentials behind them, of course. Because how are you going to get your license to carry? How are you going to get your license to conceal carry if you are not responsible with that very license? Speaking specifically of armed students with concealed carry permits, Justice said, I would trust them with a whole lot more than somebody running into a campus with maybe an illegal firearm or whatever that may be. I'll very proudly sign that legislation as soon as it comes to me. Of course, and this is exactly the job that he should take. This is exactly what he should be doing. But what Joe Biden should not be doing is speaking as what he usually does, and that is rambling and having mashed potatoes fall out of his mouth. Now, again, if you're watching the video portion of this podcast, this is a Breitbart article, not a Fox News article, so I am sorry for that. But moving with the article, watch Australian news host dissolves into tears of laughter watching Joe Biden blunders. The ability of President Joe Biden to literally stumble eagerly from one disappointment to the next have not gone unnoticed beyond the United States shores. An Australian television news host has an unfortunate task of watching a Biden goof tape, and by the end of it, it was reduced to tears of laughter. Sky News Australia host Rita Panaya was the presenter tasked with seeing Biden living down to expectations. Pandaya broadcasted last week's routine physical undertaken by the president and the fact that he was deemed to be fit or for duty. For context, the segment came just days before Biden's last physical stumble as he grappled with the stairs to air transport in Poland. As Breitbart News reported, video shows Biden slowly climbing the stairs before he falls and then tries to quickly regain his footing. It was almost identical to replay of the previous incident in 2021 when Biden fell up the stairs to Air Force One. This time, he recovered sufficiently to turn around and salute before entering the aircraft. Biden's physical last week determined the 80-year-old staffers from a stiff grat and neuropathy in the feet. According to the Cleveland Clinic, neuropathy refers to any condition that affects the nerves outside your brain or spinal cord. This happens for I can't talk either. Wow. Joe Biden is really having a take on my ability to speak coherent sentences. This can happen. Oh, see, it's okay. This can happen for several reasons, from trauma to infant. This can happen for several reasons, from trauma to infections to inherited conditions. There are so many possible symptoms. May cause forms or symptoms of this condition are treatable, but that can vary from person to person, the clinic explained. White House physician Kevin O'Connor said in a summary of the health exam that the president remains fit for duty and fully executes all of his responsibilities without any expectations or accommodations. Others were happy to focus on his positives. So I don't know why you're seeing any positives from Joe Biden. You're just rambling, you're stumbling, you have mashed potatoes in the mouth. You don't even know what you're talking about. But of course, you have some positives, I guess. I think. I don't know. I don't know any of your positives, Joe Biden. You pulled out of Afghanistan in a utterly disaster, left American citizens there. You did absolutely nothing with the Ohio train derailment. Okay, you canceled the Nord Stream pipeline. You seriously canceled it. You got it bombed. It was the United States that bombed it. What else? You failed in Ukraine because of the fact that you keep sending our money to Ukraine. But I mean, I don't know if that's actually a fail. I think that other things are more of a fail. I think that the Ukraine situation is actually a good situation for America, at least, because America got exactly what it wanted out of the deal, and it actually weakened the Russian military by just sending checks to Ukraine. That's a good trade-off. But with that being said, we're going to end this episode of the Demetrius Rujo Show off here. If you did enjoy this episode, please like and subscribe down below, or you can comment whatever you would like me to touch base on next week. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys on Monday. Bye.